Well, welcome back to Storytime with PJ. Today, I've got another Berenstain Bears book, and this one is called Keep the Faith, and this is by Mike Berenstain. Remember I was telling you that Jan and Stan, that's their son, and so he was really probably one of the little Berenstain Bears in the original stories. So this one is called Keep the Faith. I wonder what that means. Guess we're going to find out, aren't we? Brother and Sister Bear had many good friends in Bear Country. There was Sister's best friend, Lizzie Bruin, of course, and Cousin Fred was definitely Brother's best bud. The Cubs had other friends who shared interests or hobbies. Barry Bruno collected baseball cards like Brother. Millie Grizzly loved Barbie dolls like Sister. And then there was Ferdy Factual. It was hard to say. That was a lot of the same letters together, wasn't it? Ferdy's uncle was Professor Actual Factual Bear, who ran the museum in Bear County. Ferdy was just like his uncle, a scientist bear. Brother and Sister were interested in science too. They liked to learn about dinosaurs and dig up fossils. They used a telescope to study the stars. They looked through a microscope to learn about germs and other tiny things. Have you ever looked through a microscope? It's kind of fun to see some little tiny things in a microscope. One evening, Ferdy brought his telescope to Brother and Sister's house so they could watch the moon rise. As the sun set in the west, it began to grow dark. A few bats flew overhead. Then in the east, the full moon rose. It was very big and bright. Ferdy looked into the telescope, then gave Brother and Sister a turn. "You can see the mountains and craters on the moon very clearly," said Ferdy. "Wow," said Brother. "That is amazing." "It's very beautiful," said Sister, growing thoughtful. "God certainly did a good job." "God," said Ferdy. "Why mention God?" "Well, because God created everything," said Sister. "The moon, the stars, the planets, the sun, everything in the whole wide world." "I don't believe that God created the world," said Ferdy. "In fact, I don't believe in God at all." "You don't believe in God?" asked Brother, surprised. "No," said Ferdy. "I believe in science, in things you can see and test and prove." Brother and Sister scratched their heads. They didn't know what to make of that. This was a new idea to the Cubs. That evening, after Ferdy went home, Brother and Sister sat at the dinner table playing with their food. They stared off into space, deep in thought. "You two seem like you're a million miles away," said Papa. "Maybe we are," said Sister, "way out past the moon." So I don't want to miss a page here. There we go. "The moon?" asked Mama. "Yes," explained Brother. "We were looking at the moon with Ferdy, and we got talking about God. Ferdy says he doesn't believe in God." "I see," said Mama. "Well, some folks don't believe in God the way that we do." "Well, why do we believe in God?" said Sister. "The Bible teaches us about God and our faith," said Mama. "And we know God in our hearts. We feel his love for us, and his love helps us love each other." Look, there's Moses in the burning bush. "That's right," agreed Papa. "And all those things strengthen our faith." "But what's faith?" asked Sister. Said Mama. "That's a good question. Tomorrow we'll go down to the chapel in the woods and we'll ask Preacher Brown to explain it to us. He knows all about faith." The next morning they set off for the chapel in the woods. The sun sparkled on every leaf and blade of grass. Birds flew singing overhead and bright butterflies danced from flower to flower. "The beauty of God's earth is another thing that gives us faith," said Papa. "But what's faith?" asked Brother. "Well, it's a little hard to explain," said Papa. "Preacher Brown will help us." Preacher Brown greeted them at the door of the chapel. "Come in," he called. "What brings the Bear family here this fine morning?" "The Cubs have a question for you," said Mama. "That's what I'm here for," said the preacher. "Ask away." "Well," began Brother, a little tongue-tied. "Don't be shy," said the preacher. "Spit it out." The Cubs smiled. "We were talking about God with Mama and Papa," said Brother. "And they said we believe in God because we have faith," went on Sister. "But we don't exactly know what faith is," finished Brother. "Ah, faith," said the preacher, opening a Bible. "Do you Cubs know the story of Daniel?" "Yes," said Brother. "We learned about it in Sunday school. Daniel got into trouble for praying to God." "And," went on Sister, "the king of the land threw him into a den full of lions to punish him." But when they opened the lion's den the next day, he added, brother remembering the story, they found him safe and sound, finished sister, and the lions didn't eat him. Good thing, isn't it? That's right, said Preacher Brown. Daniel trusted in God and so was not afraid. He had faith that God would save him. That's what faith in God's all about. It's trusting in his love. Brother and sister thought about it. They thought about the moon and the stars and the sun, Ferdy Factual and Daniel in the lion's den. It was a lot to think about, but one thing was becoming clear. Their faith in God was important to them. The Bear family thanked Preacher Brown and said goodbye. Outside, storm clouds were gathering. There was a flash of lightning and a rumble of thunder. Ooh, shivered sister, I'm scared of thunder. But then she remembered Daniel's faith and how he wasn't afraid of those lions. Daniel's example of faith helped her feel braver. She stuck out her chin and marched home as the first raindrops fell. There we go. Keep the Faith by the Berenstain Bears. Well, thank you for joining me today, and make sure you tune in next week for another story. Have a good week.